Brown, good afternoon. Come up to where Deputy Smith is standing, please. Place your left hand on the Bible. Once you get there, and raise your right hand to be sworn, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you will give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? Thank you, sir. Put your hand out. Have a seat here, please, sir, and watch the step. Someone need a pen, Deputy Smith? All good? Okay. Ms. Schofield, I'm sorry, Ms. Hagerman should look first. You may proceed.
Say your name for the court, please.
Jesse Browning.
Spell it, please.
JESSEBROWNING.
Get a little comfortable up there, okay? Because I think you're going to be up here for a little bit.
All right.
You're here to take us on a sort of a little trip through time.
All right.
Let's start with what your job is.
I'm an investigator with the multi-agency gang unit, and I'm a part of the Memphis Police Department.
How long have you been with the Memphis Police Department?
Since 2009, got my blue time though. In 2010, so I've been on 11 years.
Let me ask you this first. In 2010, when this crime happened, where were you stationed at, or where were you
I
working?
was Tillman Station my rookie year, midnight shift.
Would it be fair to say Tillman Station, that's close to us now, near downtown, Binghamton?
So it's Binghamton.
Far away from this crime.
Correct.
2010, anything to do with this crime at all?
2010, yes, but
No, you in 2010.
oh no.
In fact, I think you said you were a rookie officer then.
I was.
Fast forward 6 years to 2016. Did you become involved in the investigation of the 2010 murder of Lorenzen Wright?
I did.
How'd you become involved in that?
We were tasked by our major to look into the 2010 investigation and kind of see what all had happened and what we could do with it. Was there any way of finding out who murdered Lorenzen Wright?
A relook or a reinvestigation, would that be fair?
Yes.
Had you heard of the case before?
Yeah, on the news. I think maybe somebody, when on my rookie year, I think it was mentioned because it came over the radio or something.
In 2016, at the start, did you attempt to obtain all the information that had been available in the case before?
Yes,
For instance, did you review the 911 tape?
I did.
For instance, did you review the crime scene?
I did.
For instance, did you review the autopsy and evidence collected at the autopsy?
Yes.
Did you review witness statements,
Yes. I did.
interviews,
I did.
photographs?
Yes.
Did you take a look back into the past, 2010, 2011, 2012, all the years in between the homicide in 2016?
All the way through.
What's going to be your job here today is take us on that relook.
All right.
Okay? So let's start. Did you familiarize yourself with the background situation in 2010? What I mean by that, the status of Lorenzen and Sherra's relationship, where each party was living, things like that.
Mainly just from the case file, from the beginning of the missing persons report was really where we started. So that first page is where I started personally.
Were you familiar with the status of their marital relationship at the time?
No.
Okay. Were you familiar with where, or did you familiarize yourself with where Lorenzen Wright was living at the time?
Yes.
And what city was he living at the time?
Atlanta, Georgia. Or right outside of Atlanta, Georgia.
If I gave you an address of 452 Tioram, Tioram Lane, are you familiar with that location?
Yes.
And what is that?
That is where Lorenzen was living with 2 roommates.
I'm going to pass you a series of 5 photographs. And if you can tell me what's pictured in each, set them down, face down on the desk in front of you.
The first one is a Google Maps overhead view of 452 Tamarind Lane, and then there's also highlighted an IHOP on here.
Suburb of Atlanta?
Yes.
There you go.
Another one's just a further out view of that Google Maps, and it has the 452 Tamarind Lane. And the other is the condo that Lorenzen was living in, which is the 452 Tamarind Lane.
Picture the actual condo there at 452 Tamarind Lane.
Yes. And then there's a pulled back view of the apartment or the condo. It looks like it's from they're standing in the yard across the street. And then the other is Google Maps, but like a street maps almost of how far it is from IHOP to 452 Tamarind Lane, and has the directions for it.
Your Honor, I introduce that, whatever Your Honor's preference with regard to collective or sequential.
Ms. Perry, Mr. Thomas, any objections to this offer of proof?
No, Your Honor.
For the record, exhibit number 3 would be what has been described by, is it Detective Browning?
Yes, sir.
A Google map showing the general location of 452 Tioram, Tioram Lane. Google Maps showing the location of 452 Tioram Lane, identified by Detective Browning as a city suburb outside of the city of Atlanta. Exhibit number 4 would be a wider view of an aerial photo showing the location of the address on Tioram Lane. Exhibit 5 would be a photograph showing what's been described by Detective Browning as a condo located at this address of 452 Tioram Lane. Exhibit 6 will be a photograph described by Detective Browning as a photograph showing the back of the condo at 452 Tioram Lane. Exhibit 7 would be what has been described by Officer Detective Browning as a street map showing a location, possible travel route between an IHOP and 452 Tioram Lane. A street map, exhibit number 7. Ms. Hagerman, you may proceed.
As we go, Your Honor, there's going to be a series of pictures, physical exhibits. Have permission to publish as we go, Your Honor?
Yes, sir, you may do so.
Yellow dot on the left, 452 Tioram Lane. We're looking at a suburb of Atlanta, is that correct?
Correct.
And that address is what again?
452
I'm sorry,
Tim.
what is it? What's the
It's-
significance of it?
This is where Lorenzen was living with 2 of his roommates.
Where Lorenzen was living?
Mhm.
And there also is an IHOP highlighted on here as well, is that correct?
Correct.
Further out view, the same thing, is that correct?
Correct.
Big city of Atlanta. Next. right, what's this a picture of?
That's going to be Lorenzen Wright's condo that he was living in.
It looks like it has a ground floor level that's a garage in the front, is that correct?
Correct.
And it's a three-floor condo? Or house, whatever you want to call it.
I think it's 2, but it just has that bottom. I think it has the bottom flooring, right?
I'm gonna count that bottom floor in there, so. maybe 1, 2,
Like the
3.
garage area, yes.
What was this, detective?
This is someone taking a picture of the back of the condo.
Okay, so this is the back of the same condo, Lorenzen's condo.
Correct.
Out there in Atlanta.
Correct.
Did you also familiarize yourself with the location on Whispering Woods?
I did.
What is that?
That is the residence that Sherra Wright was living in.
Let me pass you these 2 photographs, and you can identify these.
The first photo is going to be a picture of the front of her residence in 2010, and then the other is going to be a photo of the pool and jacuzzi area in the backyard of the same residence.
I'd offer those in the evidence.
Mr. Perry, any comments and objections to his next offer?
No objection.
What's that address again, Officer Detective Browning?
It's, I think it's Whispering Woods.
Whispering Woods.
It's 35.
4530.
4530.
Thank you. Exhibit 8. Photograph showing a property at an address of 4530 Whispering Woods, described as the residence of Sherra Wright, exhibit number 8. Exhibit number 9. Photographs described by Detective Browning as a pool at the address of 4530 Whispering Lane, exhibit number 9. May proceed. Mr. Hagerman, you may publish those for the jury, please, sir.
All right, what area of town is this house in, Detective?
It's in Carterville.
Is it in Shelby County?
Yes.
And from your review of the case file, who was living at the house at the time of the homicide?
Sherra Wright and her 2 children, I think, were living with her.
At least 2 of the children?
At least 2 of the children.
You just picture your backyard? Beyond those locations, did you familiarize yourself with other locations in Memphis?
Yes.
In particular, a location that I'm going to call Callus Cutoff.
Correct.
Tell the jury what that is, where that is, what we're talking about there.
That's where Lorenzen Wright was located, deceased, which was at Callus Cutoff and Tournament Drive.
And where is that in Memphis?
It's going to be right off the interstate there at Germantown Parkway, kind of just north of the interstate. in Collierville, somewhat in Collierville, Memphis.
In Shelby County?
Yes,
Near Hex Cross?
yes.
Is this street a big street? I won't see pictures. Is it a big street or a little street?
No, it's a small little cut through. I think even back then it was more of a wooded kind of area that you cut through.
Is it lined with houses, yes or no?
At that time, no.
Lined with businesses, yes or no?
No.
Be fair to describe it as undeveloped, yes or no?
Undeveloped, yes.
Small,
Small, yes.
dark?
Yes.
The area around it, immediately next to it, adjacent to it, can you describe it?
It's just a wooded area where the road cuts through. It's got 3-layered barbed wire fencing, and then it's just kind of got some open fields, and then the rest is just woods.
Undeveloped,
Undeveloped,
wooded,
wooded.
but still in Shelby County.
Yes, sir.
So you familiarize yourself with his house in Atlanta, with Sherra's house on Whisper Woods, with Cal's Cutoff, where his body was found. How about where Mr. Billy Turner was living? 7250 German Creek Park.
Correct. Yes.
What area of town is his house located in?
Somewhat close to the same area.
Close
just
to
west.
Close to what same?
Callus Cut, so it's on the other side of the interstate, kind of it'd be more towards the west, maybe 2 miles away.
About 2 miles from Cal's Cutoff.
I'd say maybe 2-3 miles. It's not that far.
And would it be fair to say that Sherra's house was a bit further away than that?
Yes.
Let me pass you these 2 exhibits. What's the picture there?
It's a Google Maps picture, and it's got a red dot signifying where Lorenzen Wright's remains were found on Callus Cut, and then there's a yellow dot for Billy Turner's house over on was it German Park or
German Creek Park?
German Creek
Right.
Park, and then Sherra Wright's on Whispering Woods. And it's got a yellow dot.
And underneath it?
It's going to be a Google Maps kind of, I guess you could say, zoomed in, and it's got a yellow dot for Billy Turner's house, a green dot for Planet Fitness, and then a red dot for where Lorenzen Wright's remains were found on Callus Cut.
Have those marked as state sex number exhibits?
Objection, Mr. Perry, Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, let me see those.
I had those off the board, please. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. For the record, exhibit number 10. It would be what's been described as a Google aerial shot by Detective Browning showing the locations of Billy Turner's house, Sherra Wright's house, both marked by yellow dots, and a red dot marking the location where Lorenzen Wright's remains were located. Exhibit number 10. Exhibit number 11 will be what's been described by Detective Brown, and it's a Google map showing the locations of Billy Turner's house, Planet Fitness, a green circle, yellow circle for Billy Turner's house, and a red circle for the location of Lorenzen Wright's remains. Exhibit number 11. You may proceed, Mr. Hagerman.
Okay, this is advanced guess right now, but I think we can see what we need to see. What area of Memphis are we looking at?
Collierville, Shelby County.
Okay, Collierville. The red dot is what? Do you want me to read it?
Ladies and gentlemen, can you see that
It's-
red dot on that exhibit? I want to apologize to you. This is one of the hazards of technology. A normal laser pointer, if you try to use that on that Samsung TV, would disappear. So otherwise, we'll give Detective Browning a laser pointer and have him point to it, but it does not show up on that screen. And I do apologize to you. So if you need to see it, feel free to reposition yourselves, but they will try to describe for you what is shown on the photograph.
I've asked the jury too as we go.
Yes, sir. So what Ms. Hagman has given to you, that's the actual exhibit that you have within the jury room when you start to deliberate. Everything that's been admitted, you have it to look at as long as it's close as you want to. It's been shown as overhead just to conserve time, but what is in your hands now, exhibit 10, is actually also being shown on this screen. May be better to have you look at it as this testimony goes along. Ms. Hagman, you proceed.
So we're looking at an aerial view out in Collierville, parts of Memphis too, is that right?
Yes.
All in Shelby County?
Right.
Red dot, it's hard to see from where the jury is, but it's the top. As
Correct.
far as the dots are. Red dot, it reads Lorenzen Wright's remains.
Correct.
So where's that at?
That's going to be Callus Cut.
Okay, that's that small road that you're talking about.
Correct.
To the left of it, there's a dot that reads Billy Turner's house. That's Mr. Turner's house at the time, is that correct?
Yes. German Creek
2010?
Park. Yes.
And then to the extreme right and lower is Sherra Wright's house. Is that the house that we saw at Whisper Woods?
That's correct.
And for scale's sake, you said Mr. Turner's house is about 2 miles from Callus Cutoff, is that right?
Yeah, approximately.
Making Miss Wright's house further away.
Correct.
Do you estimate maybe 3 or 4 times as far?
Yes.
You estimate about
yes.
3 or 4 times as far?
Yes.
The next is a closer view, is that correct, Detective? Closer than the one we saw before?
Yes.
If I go to the extreme top right, the red dot reads Lorenzen Wright's remains, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And in this picture, is it even possible to see the woods that are next to the little cutoff road that you're talking about?
Well, there's apartments there, but yes, where that dot is, I think actually it'd be more to the right is where his remains were found. And then Billy Turner's residence is going to be just south, like southwest of that.
Southwest of that, the yellow dot, Billy Turner's house.
Right.
And for some reason unknown to me, why is there a green dot for Planet Fitness?
I do not know.
That's probably just a mistake.
I would assume.
Planet Fitness didn't have any sort of role in this investigation.
It did not.
is that right?
It did not.
We're going to get up close and personal with that location there at Callus Cutoff. But first, let's get Lorenzen to Memphis. In the investigation, did you discover that Lorenzen had traveled from Atlanta to Memphis?
Yes.
Did you discover how and when he traveled from Atlanta to Memphis?
Yes.
And can you tell us when and how?
It was on the 18th, and he flew on Delta
So
by plane.
When you say the 18th, you mean July 18th, 2010?
July 18th, 2010.
And for perspective's sake, we'll hear about in a second, Lorenzen dies when?
July 19th at 12:12 in the morning.
All right, so the 18th, the day he comes in, he dies just 12 minutes after midnight the same day.
Correct.
Dying basically the same day he came in,
Correct.
except for 12 minutes.
Correct.
Was it determined? Were his whereabouts that day once he came to Memphis, were they accounted for?
They were.
Did investigators speak to various people that he visited with?
Yes.
Various people that saw him?
Yes.
Did investigators determine the last place he was that night before Cal was cut off?
Yes.
And did they determine the last place he was before that?
Yes.
Right.
They did.
So take his time frame wise. Where was Lorenzen right before he went to Cal's cut off?
Lifetime Fitness.
Right, you backed up on me too. You backed up to the first time. And that's fine. Let's start there. How was Lorenzen's, how was his presence at Lifetime Fitness documented?
By his friend who gave him a ride to the last place he was known to be, which was Whispering Woods.
Why was he at Lifetime Fitness?
He picked up his son, Lorenzen Jr.
And about what time did he leave Lifetime Fitness?
It's around 9:30.
Around 9:30. And who was with him when he left Lifetime Fitness?
His frat brother, I think his frat brother's son, and then Lorenzen Jr. all rode.
You say his fraternity brother, would that be Philip Dodson?
Philip Dodson, yes.
Mr. Dodson's son?
Yes.
Is that correct? And then Lorenzen Jr.
Correct.
About how old was Lorenzen Jr. at the time?
I think he's about 15.
Do you know what Lorenzen Jr. had been doing up at Lifetime Fitness?
He was playing basketball.
Do you know where Philip Dodson, Lorenzen, and the two kids went after Lifetime Fitness?
Yes.
Where'd they go?
They went to Sherra's residence at Whispering Woods.
Do you know about what time they arrived at Whispering Woods?
It would have been like 10 minutes after that.
Would that be fair to say in the 9:30, 9:40 range?
Right around there.
Less than 3 hours before he dies.
Correct.
From that point, is it fair to say that investigators don't speak to, can't locate, don't speak to anybody that saw Lorenzen Wright after that, other than Sherra Wright?
Correct.
Dropped off at the house about 9:30, 9:45.
Correct.
We're going to jump ahead 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes to 12:12 a.m. Okay? 12 minutes after midnight. Why is that time important?
That is when the 911 calls are received to Germantown.
And tell us about that 911 call.
It was a 911 call that was placed by Lorenzen that was routed to the Germantown dispatch
From Lorenzen's cell phone
from Lorenzen's cell phone.
to Germantown dispatch.
Correct.
And have you reviewed that call once, twice, or many times?
Many
Many times.
times.
Describe generally what we hear on that phone.
You hear Lorenzen kind of say, "Oh, goddamn," and you hear some gunshots, and then you hear somebody say something. It's been interpreted different by different people that listen to it, but it almost sounds like, to me, "Get 'em," and then more gunshots, and then the phone hangs.
A male voice,
Correct.
Lorenzen's voice, a male voice, and then whatever was said, and like you said, it's just hard to make it out.
Correct.
Another male voice,
It sounds like another male voice.
right? And numerous gunshots.
Correct.
And tell us, I may have already told him, but tell us what Germantown did with that 911 call.
They called his cellular phone back, and then I think that was it.
That was it.
It appears that that was it.
They didn't research the location.
No.
They didn't put out a broadcast or whatever you want to call it to other law enforcement agencies.
They did not.
Nothing.
It didn't appear that anything was done.
Let me pass you this, ask you if you recognize this to be the 911 call. I know you said you listened to it many times.
Yes, this is a copy of one of the 911.
Or if we have that margin, evidence this time.
Here, Ms. Thomas, interjections.
No objection, Your Honor.
This would be exhibit number 12. Described by Investigator Brown as a 911 call placed on July 19, 2010. Exhibit number 12. Phil Andrews, Hagerty, may proceed.
Well, it's just one more time for the jury, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. There should be 3 speakers above your head in the jury box. Let me know if you're working properly, please.
Georgetown 911, where's your emergency? Hello? 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 Sound like I'm nothing but gunshots.
Nothing but gunshots, but yet they do nothing about it.
Correct.
That frustrates you?
It's pretty sad.
That is July 18th, that is turned into the 19th, 12 minutes after midnight. Is Lorenzen reported missing that same night?
No.
Is he reported missing that next morning?
No.
Was he reported missing later that morning?
It was not.
Did you determine where Lorenzen was supposed to be that next morning?
He was supposed to be at Sherra's residence.
And why was he supposed to be there?
He was going to be picked up by one of his roommates and with his kids, and they were going to go back to Atlanta.
He and the kids had a ride back to Atlanta
That's correct.
that next morning,
That's correct.
but he wasn't there.
He was not there.
But he wasn't reported missing.
He was not.
Not that morning.
No.
Not later that day.
Not later that day.
Was Sherra Wright reported missing that night?
No.
Was Sherra Wright reported missing that next morning?
No.
Did Sherra Wright ever report him missing?
She did not.
Who reported missing?
His mother.
That'd be Miss Deborah?
Yes.
Do you know how many days later until he was reported missing?
It was on the 22nd of July, 2010.
22nd, 2 or 3 days later, he's finally
3 days.
reported missing, is that right?
That's correct.
That same day as he's reported missing, is his body found?
No,
Is it found the next day?
it's not.
We're now at the 24th or the 25th. Has anybody discovered this 911 call yet?
No.
When does somebody discover this 911 call?
On the 27th.
And it wasn't in Germantown police, was it?
No.
Who discovered the 911 call?
It was an investigator with the Carterville Police Department.
Carterville Police Department.
Correct.
And what kind of case were they investigating?
Missing persons.
Lorenzen's missing person case?
Correct.
Once they discovered this 911 call, what was done?
They contacted Germantown, one of their inspectors, and that inspector in turn, I guess, said he would figure out if the call came through and if they could see what all was done.
From there, are investigators able to do something with phones and location to try to figure out where this call came from?
Correct, yes,
And did they do that?
they did.
And what did that result in?
They had basically a geographical area which was over Hacks Cross, Callis Cut, and Tournament Drive.
And what they do?
They sent, on the 28th, they got together and had a meeting, and then they had a search party go out and start searching that area around Callis Cut, Tournament Drive, and Winchester and all.
And we're going to get into the specifics when we see the pictures, the diagram, and the evidence, but generally, what did they find?
They found Lorenzen.
They found Lorenzen. And if my math is right, this is at least 9 days after this 911 call?
Yes.
I'm going to pass you a good-sized stack of documents. Quickly, if you can go through them like you did before, placing one on top of each other face down,
Okay.
and tell us what general is the
It's going to be an aerial view of Callis Cut, and where it's a photo taken where Lorenzen's body was located. This is just another aerial view, but it's more zeroed in on the road and where the fencing is. The next one is a crime scene diagram. It shows where Lorenzen's body was located, but also the pieces of evidence that were collected by a crime scene. And then we have a picture of part of the Callis Cut Road, and then where it appears to be where some barbed wire was cut. And then we have a zoomed in photo of just barbed wire and some grass in the background. We have a long view of Callis Cut, and it looks about 5 rows of barbed wire that's been missing from a metal posting. You have a zero, like a zoomed in photo of just the metal posting where it appears that like, yes, you've got some of the metal left of where some barbed wire was cut. And then you have a metal posting where the barbed wire is attached and it's zoomed in on it. You have an even closer view of the metal posting where the barbed wire is attached or tied around. You have a photo taken from across the street, and you've got multiple placards on the ground on callus cut. You have a zoomed in photo of those placards, about 4 placards, which was representing the evidence that crime scene found. We have a photo of a zoomed in placard labeled number 2. We have a zoomed in photo of a placard labeled 3, and there's a shell casing. You have just a different angle of the placards earlier, which is the placards are labeled 4, 5, 6, and 12. And then you have a zoomed out photo of the same placards, but instead of 4, 5, 6, and 12, you also have 3 and 7 in there. And it's a long view of callus cut. And then there's a zoomed in photo of the road at callus cut and where the barbed wire is missing, and then you have placards 7 and 8. And then you have a zoomed out photo of all the placards that I just named. And then you have a photo of Lorenzen Wright when he was located, deceased. You have a zoomed out photo where Lorenzen Wright was located, and then there's multiple placards around it. And then you have a zoomed in photo with a liquor bottle, and then it has 1 placard labeled 1.
Mr. Thomas and/or Ms. Perry, any objections to this next offers of proof?
No objection.
Mr. Thomas, thank you. For the record, hopefully I took sufficient notes. Exhibit number 13. The photograph described by Detective Browning as showing a area of the callus cut and where Lorenzen Wright's body was located, exhibit number 13. Exhibit number 14. Photographs described by Detective Browning as showing a closer view of the road and fenced area, exhibit number 14. Exhibit number 15. The crime scene diagram not to scale. Showing the location of where Mr. Wright's body was found and other marks showing placards or items that were located relative to the crime scene, exhibit number 15. Exhibit number 16 will be a photograph described by Detective Browning as showing callous cut and where Bob Wire was located. Cut, exhibit number 16. Exhibit number 17, the photograph described by Detective Browning as showing a closer view of zoomed-in view of barbed wire at this address, location of callous cut, exhibit number 17. Exhibit number 18. The photograph described by Detective Browning as showing a longer view of callous cut with missing barbed wire, exhibit 18. Exhibit number 19 is photograph described by Detective Browning as showing metal posts and remnants of barbed wire, exhibit 19. Exhibit 20. Photograph described by Detective Browning as showing metal posts with attached barbed wire, exhibit 20. Exhibit number 21 is a closer view of a barbed wire, exhibit 21. Exhibit 22 is photographs described by Detective Browning as showing several evidence placards, exhibit 22. Exhibit number 23 is photographs described by Detective Browning as showing a zoomed-in view. It's 23, Deputy Smith. A zoomed-in view of placards 4, 5, and 12. Exhibit 23. 23, yes, sir. Exhibit number 24, photograph showing placard or item 2, exhibit 24. Exhibit number 25 is a photograph showing a placard marking crime scene evidence is shown as placard 3, exhibit 25. Exhibit number 26, photograph showing a different view, different angle of placards 5, 6, so I put them in order, 4, 5, 6, and 12, exhibit 26. Exhibit number 27 is a photograph described by Officer Browning as showing placards 3, 4, and 6, among others, exhibit number 27. Exhibit number 28, photograph described by Officer Browning as showing placards or items 7 and 8, exhibit 28. Exhibit number 29 is a photograph described by Detective Browning as showing a zoomed out angle of all placards, exhibit 29. Exhibit number 30. Photograph described by Detective Browning as showing the body, decomposing body of Lorenzen Wright, exhibit number 30. Exhibit number 31, photographs described as showing placards of placards 1, 2, 3, 5 appears to be 10, and also the body of zoomed out body of Lorenzen Wright, exhibit number 31. Exhibit number 32 is placard number 1, described by Detective Brown, and is showing a zoomed in photo of a what appears to be a alcoholic or liquor bottle. Placard number 1, exhibit number 32. I think I took adequate notes. Hopefully I described it properly, Mr. Hagram. You may proceed.
Publish those in a second.
Yes, sir.
Some of the pictures we're going to see, Detective, or that we've talked about already, involves bullet casings. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Let me pass you these 3 envelopes. Ask you if you recognize these.
I do.
And if you could just, one by one, describe what's contained in each.
The first one's going to be 5 spent 8.35 S&B bullet casings, 1 spent 9mm bullet casing, and 1 spent 380 bullet casing.
And where are those collected at?
This is going to be collected at Tournament Drive and Callis Cut.
If we could have that, we don't want to do these one by one, since these are envelopes. We have that in the system.
Ms. Perry and Mr. Thomas, an objection to this next offer of proof.
No objection.
For the record, exhibit 33. Property and evidence envelope and the contents therein described by Officer Detective Browning. 5 spent 8.35. Is that a B, Officer Browning? B as in boy?
Yes.
8.35 B bullet casings, 1 spent 9mm bullet casing, and 1 spent 380 bullet casing. Exhibit number 33, the envelopes and the contents therein. The next envelope you have in your hand, Detective Browning, is?
It's going to be 9 spent 9mm Luger casings.
Okay, where are those collected?
There's Callis Cut and Tournament Drive.
Mr. Thomas Mr. Thomas, Mr. Perry, I apologize. Any objections to this next offer of proof?
No objection.
This will be exhibit number 34, described by Detective Browning as 9 spent 9mm Luger, Luger, shell casings. Exhibit number 34. Ms. Hagerman, you may proceed.
Last envelope.
The last envelope is going to be 3 spent bullets. And those were collected at Callis Cut Off and Tournament Drive.
Offer those as evidence in this next one.
Ms. Perry, Ms. Thomas, any objections to this next offer of proof?
No objection.
This will be exhibit number 35, described by Detective Browning as 3 spent bullets recovered at his location of Callis Cutoff. Callis, for the record, C-A-L-L-I-S, Cutoff, C-U-T-O-F-F, Road, west of Tournament Drive, exhibit number 35, 3 spent bullets. Ms. Hagerman may proceed.
Skip away from the crime scene just for a second. To your knowledge, were bullets and bullet fragments recovered from the body of Lorenzen Wright?
Yes.
They pass you these 3 envelopes and ask you to identify these 3.
And The first one's going to be a bullet fragment from the right arm of Lorenzen.
Offer that in evidence as case links number
Thomas, Ms. Perry, any objections to this next offer?
No, Your Honor.
Without objection to exhibit number 36. Described by Detective Browning as a bullet fragment recovered from the right arm of Lorenzen Wright. The location of recovery is 1060 Madison Regional 1. Sorry, I apologize, it's not the Regional 1. That's the Shelby County Regional Forensic Center, or I believe the Regional Medical. It's changed names a few times.
I just called the medical examiner's office.
Regional 1 Medical Examiner's Office, exhibit number 38, a bullet fragment recovered from 36, can't read my writing, 36, a bullet fragment recovered from Lorenzen Wright's right arm. Mr. Hagman, you may proceed.
Proceed to the next one, Detective.
It's one bullet from chest.
Bullet from Lorenzen Wright's chest.
Correct.
Offer that in evidence as case number
Ms. Perry, Ms. Thomas, any objections?
No objection.
This will be exhibit number 37. 37. Envelopes and the contents thereof described by Detective Browning as one bullet recovered from the chest of Lorenzen Wright. And again, the location of recovery is 1060 Madison Avenue, exhibit number 37. Ms. Hagerman, you may proceed.
You know the drill. Last one.
It's going to be one bullet jacket from head.
Lorenzen Wright's head.
Yeah.
Offer that in evidence as case links number exhibit.
Ms. Perry and/or Mr. Thomas, any objections?
No, Your Honor.
This will be exhibit number 38. Property and evidence envelope and the contents therein described as one bullet jacket from the head of Lorenzen Wright recovered at 1060 Madison Avenue, exhibit number 38, bullet from head. Ms. Hagman, you may proceed. Yes, sir.
We could proceed.
Ms. Hagman, I apologize, you may not proceed.
Oh, sorry, sir.
No, not you. One of the jurors has indicated they need a break for a moment. Let's give the juror take recess. Let me know when you're ready to go back to work. You're not discussing the case amongst yourselves with anyone else. Detective Brown, we'll have you step down from the witness stand during a recess. You cannot discuss your testimony with anyone over the recess, sir. Thank you, sir. Anything else we need to address while we are going to take this recess? We call the court to recess. Everyone can remain seated.
What stands in recess?
Please.